Like, it's super dark, even though I live in the city. Because I walk, like, for transportation, like, all the time. I can show you, like, my eyes acclimate to the dark, how dark it is, but I actually really, really love it. Like, they have a lot of the traffic lights out just because they like to conserve money. So, I have a little topic that I want to talk about tonight, and it's about how you do not have to have a chaotic and hectic life. Like, chaos, like, if you're a child, you have less control over your life. Children have much less control over their lives. But once you turn 18, you have autonomy to make choices that can make your life less chaotic and less hectic. And I get most people want to drive. And yes, people with kids would probably have to drive most of the time. But there are times when I know in my heart, and I see people still do it, they choose to live a simpler life. And today I got taken to task by some woman just because I said, a lot of Americans do choose a more hectic and a more chaotic life. But we're not allowed, like, people are not allowed to have that thought. But it's funny because I hear people in Europe say that all the time because, Americans are selecting to hustle. Like, I know in our culture, hustle is like considered like a flex. Like, hustling is a flex. Like, oh, I hustle this, that. And there might be some people who are in dire straits that have to hustle, but there's a lot of people. They choose to do all these extra things because they want all these material things. And sometimes the less chaotic, simpler life doesn't mean that you're a minimalist. It means, like, there's other kinds of minimalism. Like, you could be an activity minimalist, like, or you could do, like, you could be a free or, cheap activity person. Like, you could choose after school to take your kids to the library to check out books. You could choose to read books. You could choose to watch a movie after homework's done. You could choose to have, like, a garden with your family, as opposed to, like, some people just growing up. I remember there were people that lived these really hectic lifestyles because their kids were in 6 or 7 extracurricular activities. But personally, as a more introverted person, I don't want to do all those things. And it's funny because I got told by this person that I should touch grass. But the irony is, yeah, like, my whole channel is about going outside and doing things. Like, I'm a pedestrian, like, I choose that. But I know people, okay, that do drive, that have kids. They walk their kids to school or to the bus stop. Like, I have noticed, like, there's been this, like, explosion of parents who are dropping their kids off at the school, but there is actually still a bus, Make you a sandwich. I'm not going to make you a sandwich. That's not what this is about. You go make your own sandwich. Like, if you believe in a simple life, you know how to make your own sandwich. Like, there's actually men and women who are more left-leaning, okay, that are about the simpler life, and they're not like, this is not like trad stuff, okay? Like, you might be surprised, it's not. And it's funny because, like, the simpler lifestyle was actually something that more, maybe slightly more politically liberal people used to be into, like, oh, having a garden, being ecologically minded, not eating meat. Like, it's funny because now it's like it's been co-opted by the trad movement. But, like, when my mom had us when we were little, well, goodbye to you. We don't care. You go make your own sandwich, goob, because we don't care. We're like, if somebody wants to make you a sandwich, they'll do it. But obviously, I'm not going to make you a sandwich. I don't even know who you are. And I can tell you this, you wouldn't like the kind of sandwich I made because it'd be plant-based with no meat or dairy in it. So maybe you don't want me to make you a sandwich, and I want it anyway because I have no clue who you are, and you're just on here being silly. Anyway, point being, you can live a simple life. Like, look, here's another example. Here comes the train. Like, you could take the train. You can take the bus, but there's all these people that keep saying, oh, like, public transportation doesn't exist in the Midwest, when I know that isn't even true, because, like, there is public transportation in the Midwest. I know people who drive and they take the train in the Midwest. Like, really? Come on. Like, people have all these excuses. What it is, and I know what this is at the end of the day, people who are into sometimes using public transportation and not driving all the time, even if they do drive, like, there's people that don't like that. And they see it as a threat if you, like, express, like, any kind of lifestyle that doesn't promote hustling, because heaven forbid you don't seek out hustling. Heaven forbid you don't seek out the chaotic life, because a lot of people would rather spend their time quietly reading an article or a book, or maybe quietly watching a movie with their family. They don't need that, like, go lifestyle. And that is chaos. And if you have kids, okay, this is what we're gonna do to you. Anyway, if you have kids, you're choosing that. Like, you're selecting that. You're choosing to have a chaotic life. And also, in this economy, if you can't afford to have kids, why are you having kids? Like, if you don't have the time and resources, like, there's something called birth control. I feel like it's almost like the right, really, that they are going to justify, well, we need to live these hectic lifestyles because we had lots and lots of kids. But if you can't afford to give your children a stable, soothing environment, or you don't want to do that, maybe you shouldn't be a parent. Like, that's, because honestly, I just don't think that's fair to your kids if you choose chaos and hectic lifestyle all the time, because kids don't like chaos. Kids don't want chaos. And if you're a parent and you're, like, just so frazzled, like, all the time, and you can't even sit down to help their kids with the homework, or you can't even put time aside for this and that, why are you having more kids? Like, if you're just having kids to have kids because, like, they're an accessory or they're, like, a milestone in your life, is that fair to your kids? Because your kids will remember. But, you can have a simpler life. You choose. Like, people select what they want in their life. If they want this really hectic, chaotic life, they select it. Like, if somebody wants to, like, slower living is actually a thing. But I'm beginning to realize the people that 30 years ago didn't believe in slower living, they had kids that think life has to be more chaotic today, that say you have to hustle. Like, they're going to promote the hustle because that's what they're about. But once again, I'm just not about the hustle. I think you can live a slower life. You can live a more tranquil life. You don't need to be in chaos, because chaos is something people do seek out to some degree. Like, if your life is so chaotic all the time and your house is not organized and you are stressed out all the time and you don't have time to sit down and help your kids with their homework, like, maybe there's something going on in your life. Maybe you have your kids in too many activities. And I know more extroverted culture is going to be like, oh my gosh, you mean I shouldn't have my kids in 3 activities? And maybe going on walks after school or having a little garden would be just not fun. Or maybe, like, I know people like to eat out, but I feel here's the difference. Like, people eat out way more now than they did, like, 20 years ago. And I know they keep talking about the price of groceries, but there's still a lot of people that are eating out and going to movies. And I don't even do all those things all the time. And this year, like, with the price of groceries, I'm really making a concerted effort to eat out a lot less. So I'm not saying you have to do everything at home, but the slower life is actually, it's attainable. If you want to live a slower life, you can do that. If you're living a chaotic, busy, stressful, hustle life, you're selecting that. It's a choice that you make. And Europeans don't do that. Europeans live in this modern world too, and they do live a much more tranquil life. So we make those decisions, and if you decide, oh, I need to live this really fast-paced, hustly life, there's always going to be people who do that. But I'm choosing not to do that personally. I just don't see the point. But also, too, in order to live a little bit of a less hustly life, I just talk about my thoughts about this on my own channel. I want to talk about it here so much because on other people's videos, because people just seem to not be open. Like, if you have an opinion that differs from what they think is the absolute best, rather than just be like, oh, somebody kind of sees the world differently. No, they'll be like, oh, that's negative. But actually, I think it's positive. It's positive to, like, maybe open people's minds to a different way of life. And I think also just about, like, how I'm a pedestrian, and I've always been a pedestrian. There's always been a lot of people, they don't like that. Like, there's a lot of people that keep telling me it's not possible to be a pedestrian, but yet I'm living this life, and people keep telling me it's not possible, but I make it work. And, like, I always get everywhere I need to go, and I'm super punctual because I finally discovered, it was not true. Like, when people said that you absolutely need a car to live anywhere. But I've lived in many places never having a car because I didn't want to have a car. And when people keep saying you absolutely must have a car, some people don't want to have a car. There's some people who do drive and they don't want to drive as much. And these are the same people that are always going to push how public transportation should never be a thing. Like, they are the ones that don't like the idea of public transportation. And I think maybe they're a little bothered because, like, things are beginning to change and public transit's beginning to become more acceptable. And even if you don't want to use public transit, some people choose not to drive all the time, and that's becoming more acceptable. And I think it just bothers our car culture. I think at the end of the day, what it is car culture doesn't like that. They don't like the idea that some people aren't going to drive everywhere they need to go, and somebody might actually walk to go somewhere, and they might just want to stay home sometimes and not select a go lifestyle. Like, that's okay. Like, you could actually go for a walk with your kids for fun. Go to the library, go to the park. You can do fun things that don't cost a lot of money. I'm not saying I don't love, like, shopping or going to Disneyland, but honestly, if you wanted to save money in this economy, you would be seeking out a simpler lifestyle. That, to me, is just common economic sense, really, but everybody has their own priority. And thanks for watching.